Welcome. This video will show you how to set up the Hazelcast Management Center. So first place you'd like to go is to hazelcast.com and you can download the Hazelcast zip file. Here it is, Hazelcast 3.1 Community Edition. Management Center is actually a WAR file that's included with pretty much any version of Hazelcast that you download from the website. So what I'd like to do is show you basically where that goes. So we're going to go to this folder here, user local, and within here we're going to assume that you've already installed Tomcat. So this is going to be our servlet container, and what you can do is you can drop in the web apps folder this Management Center WAR file that comes with the download. So let's take a look here inside of this package. So as you can see, there's this Man Center WAR file. So you can basically just drop it into your Tomcat Web Apps folder. And then, of course, we need to start Tomcat. So from here, we're going to start Tomcat. So now Tomcat has been started. It has the Management Center WAR file, which I dragged into the Tomcat folder earlier. So you don't have to worry about that. And from here, what I'd like to do is open my first instance of Hazelcast. Before we do that, though, we need to point Hazelcast at the Management Center instance. So what I'm going to do is edit this hazelcast.xml file. And I'm going to do that using VI. So here you're going to find something that says Management Center enabled equals false. So what I'm going to do is just replace that with true. And depending on your installation parameters, you're going to play around with this URL. The way that we've set it up, it actually turns out this is just fine. We're going to have Tomcat running on localhost 8080, and the application is going to be called Man Center. So we're just going to allow that one to be set that way. And then we're going to run our first Hazelcast instance. Set the permissions here, and we'll run our first Hazelcast node. So now that we've run our first Hazelcast node, what we can do is go back to our browser, and we can go into localhost 8080 Man Center, and you'll see that you're joining this Hazelcast Management Center. Now, if you set up your hazelcast.xml file correctly, you'll see already it says select cluster to connect. So I'm just going to click connect here. And what you're going to see is you're going to see this node appearing as you expected. So it's a one node cluster, not a very interesting cluster, so why don't we pop open an additional node here, and we'll start to play a little bit further. So we're bringing up a second node, and in fact, just for fun, you can bring up a third node, fourth node, and a fifth node. So as you can see, each one of these nodes is joining the cluster, and you can see there that all 5 nodes have been discovered in this cluster. So let's have a look inside of the Management Center. And as you can see, the Management Center has become aware of all 5 nodes, and it is balancing the maps inside of this node. So let's go ahead and start to play around. So let's make a map entry here. So there's a map called M, so we're just going to do m.put 1, and then we're going to put the word Hazelcast here. This is a key value, so we're basically storing 1. So if you look at the size of M, it's a map of size 1. So we're going to go ahead and look inside of that map in the management console, and as you can see, there's a total of 1 entry. That 1 entry is stored on node 3, and you can also see that node 2 has been selected to provide the backup. So essentially what this shows is it shows that you can actually kill any one of these entries, and you will end up having full backup and it'll be fully restored. This is not super exciting because there's only 1 entry, so what I can do is I can put many entries. So the test app allows you to do this command called put many. So why don't we just put, let's say, 100,000 entries into this map. So, the map has stored those entries. You can go into the other VM over here. You can say, m.size, and you can see that in fact it's 100,001 entries, and we could list them out, but the m.putMany just puts a bunch of random values into a bunch of keys. So that's basically the way it looks. So if you look at the management center, what's happened is you can see very clearly where the keys and values are stored. So you have 100,001 entries, and you can see that this 5-node cluster has started to balance those entries. These entries basically are taking up about 4.6 or 4.7 megs per node. And you can see that there's about 20,000 entries per node. You can see that each one of them has enough backups. And you can also see that a couple interesting things you can note too. For example, if you look at the partition table, let's just look at node number 1, for example. So you can click on partitions. You can see which partitions are owned by this node. So the default configuration for Hazelcast is that there's 271 partitions, and these are divided across these 5 nodes. As you get a little more sophisticated in scaling Hazelcast, you may want to play with the default number of partitions, but 271 is a real nice prime number, and it actually works for clustering nodes up to about 100 nodes, so it's not something you really will have to play with quite a bit. So let's go back to the default map and have a look-see at 0 point of failure and fault tolerance of Hazelcast. So I just want to have a look-see, what happens if I just arbitrarily shut down one of these nodes. So what you're going to see immediately is you're going to see that these other nodes have discovered that they're now part of a 4-node cluster. You can see, for example, if you go to cluster home, that in fact there are only 4 nodes here. You can see, in fact, some of these warnings that pop up that say, hey, this node has been shut down. And if you go back to the default map, what you're going to see is instead of about 20,000 entries per node, you're going to see now it's rebalanced to about 25,000 or 24,000 entries per node. And obviously the entry memory has increased per node, and the backups have been rebalanced. So, what's happening is that you have tremendous amount of reliability. You have no single point of failure, and as you add nodes, you start to get increased processors, increased amount of memory, and as you can see, it's very fault tolerant and reliable. So this is just a quick demo of the Hazelcast Management Center, how quick and easy it is to set up, and that should get you started. All right, thank you.